JSerra Media presents the Lion Zone. The Lion Zone is your source for the latest on JSerra Catholic High School athletics. Every week and we're back, the Bret and Bret Show. Coach Bret K and Bret Dahlson bring you conversation, Monday morning game analysis, and interviews with coaches, players, and special guests. My name is Bret K, and joining me as always, and he is back, is Bret Dahlson.
Happy to be back.
Happy to be back.
I missed this.
And we have two wonderful students. I'm going to let you guys introduce yourself. I said I was going to do it. I'm going to change the narrative. Go ahead.
No worries. Sydney Willson.
Gibson.
And our special, beyond the best guest we've ever had on the Bret and Bret Show.
Legend.
Not even close.
Not even close.
Not even close is Mr. Bob Costas.
Hello, Bret. Hello, Bret. Hello, Parker. Hello, Sydney.
I mean, this is, I've been through, I played some minor league baseball, so my catch play partner used to be Mike Piazza, and, so there's all these things, and I'm a little awestruck that you're here, so thank you for being here. This is a great experience.
Don't be awestruck. What minor league towns did you play in?
I played in, I was in the first, sorry to get right to it, but I played for the Brooklyn Cyclones my first year. So it was the first year baseball was back in Brooklyn in 2001. So, interestingly enough, if you want to go old stories, so Steve Phillips was the GM at the time.
Yep.
Steve Phillips is currently dating a mother whose son is in our program. So, which is another small world story. So, played for the Brooklyn Cyclones, then Columbia, South Carolina, then Port St. Lucie, Florida. Those are the three rungs that I went
Familiar
to.
with all those towns and all those ballparks, and the Brooklyn Cyclones are called the Cyclones because the ballpark is in the shadow of the famous Cyclone roller coaster at Coney Island.
And September, I hit a big home run against the Staten Island Yankees on September 9th to clinch Game 3 of the New York Penn League.
Against Robinson Cano.
Robinson Cano was on that team.
Right, he wasn't pitching.
No.
Yeah.
But that was September 9th, 2001, and then we went to go play the Williamsport Crosscutters on the 10th and came home on the morning of the 11th.
The season ended, in effect.
The season ended. So, small world stuff. I mean, I know
you ever read Roger Kahn's book? Roger Kahn is famous for writing the book about the Brooklyn Dodgers, The Boys of Summer, one of the 10 best baseball books ever written. But he also wrote a book about a year in the New York Penn League entitled "Good Enough to Dream."
I've read the other one.
You should. Boys of Summer is a classic, but you should find, because you played in the New York Penn League, you'll relate to some of the stories in that book. There's
some great places to play. Lowell, Massachusetts.
Lowell Spinners.
Yeah, the Lowell Spinners. Yeah, I got in sorry if this is live, but bench clearing brawl with Freddie Money in 2001 and at Lowell. So I'll never forget that. I did win. Yes,
nice.
I did win.
All right, there you go.
It was a good win.
Yeah.
So, really, this is, an opportunity. I know you've been on campus today. The students have questions. We have questions. And really to get your background. And we've got, a lot of stuff to kind of go over that, obviously being the most special, guest we've had on the show, just to kind of get some background and to have some back and forth questions. And so we're going to start with your background of where you grew up and where you're from, and really what sports did you play as a kid, and those types of things.
I grew up on Long Island primarily. A couple of years in Southern California in the early 1960s. That's when I first heard Vin Scully, the greatest of all baseball announcers. But most of my youth was on Long Island in New York. People ask what my favorite team was. The Dodgers and Giants had gone west when I was 5 years old. I have no recollection of it. The Mets didn't come into existence until I was 10. So you had to be a Yankee fan. That was the only team, but it was a good team to be a fan of because they won the pennant almost every year.
Yeah, of course.
So that was my favorite sport, but I could never separate the broadcasters. No matter what it was, basketball, football, baseball, I could hear the announcers in my head. I'd be throwing a football around in the backyard or shooting baskets in the schoolyard or throwing a rubber ball off what in New York they call a stoop, those steps leading up to the front of a house or front of an apartment building. And in my head, I would hear the announcers describing what I was doing. So I think at some level, I probably wanted to be a broadcaster from the time I was a little kid.
Interesting. Interesting.
I find it super cool because I feel like your generation and in my generation too, like Vin Scully did it for so long.
67 years.
Yeah, that he...
And he quit just when he was getting the hang of it.
You know what? Like, there's... when you think baseball, and for me, like growing up, it's Vin Scully and listening
Yeah.
to Dodger games, and it's cool that it stretches beyond such a wide range of different generations. I think that's the coolest part about Vin Scully's legacy.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
As I said, when he was getting toward the end of his career, and then after he passed away a little bit more than a year ago, people asked for reflections. And I said that Vin was unique in that in the last 20 years of his career, every one of his broadcasts was simultaneously present about tonight's game, but also nostalgic about every game you'd ever seen or every game you'd ever listened to,
Yeah.
whether or not he called it or not.
Yeah.
It transported everybody, whether it's somebody who was 25 years old or someone who was 90 years old, transported every one of them back to their earliest baseball memories.
Yeah.
And all sports have generational connections, but no sport has as long and rich a history, and no sport is generationally connected as much as baseball is, at least among the American sports. And the broadcasters and the great baseball writers are an important part of that.
Yeah.
But isn't that, and I think you bring up a really good point, is the generational gap. And that was one of my questions kind of towards the end of, sports and what we've been a part of, and, whether it's the Olympics or whether it's
Yeah.
baseball or soccer or football or basketball. We remember the voices and we remember obviously
Yeah.
the moments in time, but I ask, and, it's like almost mandatory, within like our baseball program that, we get so caught up in the generation of social media and the world of being right in front of our face, where it's okay to kind of sit back. And I'll never forget this, and I hate to bring up this point selfishly about myself, but I talked about the biggest home run in my life was that September 9th against Staten Island Yankees. That was the first time like flip phones and Blackberries,
Yeah.
are starting to kind of. But I remember one of my old coaches telling me, like, when you have moments of greatness or moments that you do things that are really special, or it could be, I took my son to his first card shop 2 days ago.
Oh, wow.
First baseball card shop.
Does he have this card? Does he
not
have a 1958 Mickey Mantle All-Star card?
No, he does not have that one.
So I always have this with me because I'm not going to say it's legend, but it is known, and through the years people ask me about it. This is the first Mickey Mantle card I ever got. Too bad this isn't televised, but or is it? Oh, we're zooming now.
Yeah.
Oh, hi everybody, good to see you. This is the first baseball card, not this one, but this particular type of card. Was the first one I ever got out of a pack of Topps bubblegum cards.
Wow.
When I was 6 years old. You could get a pack of cards, 5 cards for a nickel, and a little waxy piece of rectangular bubblegum came with it, which if you dropped it on the sidewalk would shatter like a pane of glass.
There's people that still eat those that are from 1981.
Yeah, and they retain the same odd flavor
Yes.
found nowhere else in
Nowhere else.
in the edible world. But then, especially, no one bought baseball cards or kept them as an investment. It was just a cool thing to do as a kid.
Yeah.
You separated them, outfielders, pitchers, National League, American League, whatever it might be. You had them in a shoebox, you kept track of them, and you waited for the next spring when the new edition came out. So anyway, I stopped collecting them when I was maybe 13 years old. But I saved the 1958 Mantle because it was kind of a good luck charm, and he was always my favorite player. No one knew about it until I was broadcasting the NBC Game of the Week on Saturday afternoons on NBC, and Tony Kubek, who had played with Mickey Mantle, he was the shortstop on a lot of Yankee pennant-winning teams, I reached for my wallet or something, he saw it. And he mentions the next day to a national audience that I have this card. So I show it on camera. Sports Illustrated thinks it's interesting. They write a little piece about it. Ever since then, I try to remember to have it with me because it's not guaranteed, but once or twice a week, someone will say, do you have the Mantle card? And the few times that I've forgotten, it was in the breast pocket of another jacket, or I left it in the other pair of jeans, or once or twice it went to the dry cleaner.
Yeah.
But they gave it back with a little safety pin alongside that. Here it is. You left this here. So I need to have it on me. And the original one got so dog-eared because so many people had asked to see it over the years that now I have this laminated one, so it's in mint condition.
Smart. There was like 7 years ago, I tried to, when baseball cards started blowing up, I tried to go through my old collection in hopes of something being valuable. There was nothing there. So I didn't find any Lucky Charm or anything in there, but Baseball cards I see on like TikTok, social media. Like,
Yeah.
it's crazy.
Well, a
some
mint
of these-
condition, mantle rookie
Yeah.
card is worth literally millions of dollars.
Yeah.
I don't know how big the market is for that.
Yeah.
But there's at least a handful of people who'll pay millions of dollars.
Yeah, it's like
for
a
that.
new age art investment, right?
Yeah.
Kind of like baseball cards has become that, and I think that's so cool.
Yeah, so, to answer your earlier question, Bret 1, that was Bret 2 just
Mm-hmm.
talking. This is Bret 1 right over here, your baseball coach.
I'll accept that.
So I had a baseball coach at Comac High School in the late 1960s on Long Island, and he had pitched in the Pirate chain in the 1950s, back when the minor leagues went down to D-ball, literally the bushes,
Yes.
the bush leagues. Yeah. So he had gotten to D, maybe C-ball. And then he becomes the math teacher, but also obviously he's the baseball coach. And so I'm trying to become the backup second baseman on the team. And when it comes time for the final cut, I lasted till the final cut, and he calls me in and he says, you're not bad with the glove, but I don't think you can hit 130, and I don't think you can hit your weight. And I don't think you weigh as much as 130, which is probably true now. I'm up to a robust 150. But at that point, it might have been 125. He says, I have to cut you, but this is God's honest truth. Have you ever thought about broadcasting? Because you seem to talk about baseball all the time. I said, yeah, that's pretty much all I think about. And this is what he said, good-naturedly. Yeah, try that.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and
He knew.
In basketball, now here's the other thing. I was the best shooter in the school. But that does not translate to being the best player.
Yeah.
I couldn't guard anybody, and anybody could guard me. So I had to be wide open. But if it was a free throw contest, no lie, I'd beat any kid who made the team. If it was just wide open shooting, if it was a game of horse, I was right there.
Yeah. Oh,
That's fantastic.
you sound like a natural athlete.
No, I know. Just peculiar skills.
Yeah.
Peculiar. But here's an interesting thing about baseball, right? You could be a terrific athlete. You can tell if a guy has played baseball or not.
Yeah.
Barack Obama, very good basketball player. First pitch, not so good.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Charles Barkley, first pitch, not so good.
Golf swing too. Let's go.
Oh, well, he's actually improved his golf swing.
has
He's
improved.
worked on it, changed
It
around.
has improved.
But so if you and I next month I'll be 72 years old, but if you and I went out to the baseball field now and just played catch, you would know that I had played baseball.
Yes,
Yeah.
correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a fluidity to your movements, 100%.
I wouldn't say it's the pinnacle of athletic grace, but I wasn't the kid in right field picking four-leaf clovers just because his dad wants him to be on the Little League team. I was there and I was engaged.
Love that.
And until everybody else got bigger than me, I was actually one of the better players. But there was a dividing line. At about 12 or 13, most of them went that way and I stayed this way.
Yeah.
But I had the fallback, and the fallback was right here.
Yeah.
I'm going to defer to you guys to fire away next.
So my question is, because you've interviewed a ton of people like Mickey Mantle, LeBron James,
Yeah.
Ogie Oglethorpe.
Okie Oglethorpe, there's a reference.
What do you do to prepare for interviews like that?
All the experience you've had and all the background you've had plays into the preparation before you do the specific preparation. And then you kind of bear down on what's current. It's easier now than it was when I started because you can Google a lot of stuff. But what you have to be careful about is that not everything that's on the internet is reliable. There's a lot of stuff there that is disinformation that's intentional, or just misinformation because anybody can throw anything on there. They don't have to be credible.
Yeah.
They don't have to have any sort of background. So you want to make sure that you have a sense of what's credible and what's not. But it is easier if you're armed with that ability to kind of see what's worth your attention. It's much easier now than it was then.
Yeah. What was the process to kind of make sure that something was accurate before the internet? Like, I'm sure it was probably more accurate then because the internet is full of just Wikipedia. I could go on and type something about you in 10 minutes.
Yes, you could.
So it's probably a lot harder now, is what you're saying, to get the factual statements.
Yeah, and I can actually tell when someone interviews me or when I read something about myself that all they did was go to Wikipedia or go to the most recent thing that showed up on Google. And that's not exactly the way to get the best and most thoughtful handle on the person or whatever the subject is. But generally speaking, when I was doing what I was doing the bulk of my career, if something was in Sports Illustrated, if something was in the New York Times or the St. Louis Post-Dispatch, you could use that as a reference.
Yeah.
But sometimes things are subject to dispute. So then it's, how do you respond to those who say this? Or I've read this, how do you respond to it?
Right.
Rather than just accepting automatically everything, because a lot of things are matters of opinion, as opposed to objective fact. So,
Yeah.
Sydney?
Well, I'm going to take it away from baseball for a second, and I'm
Yes,
going to bring
please.
it to the Olympics.
Yes.
I am personally very fascinated by the Olympics. I've grown up with it. My mom is currently doing it right now. So can you tell me a little bit more about like that experience and more of the international competition and the connections you made and
yes.
that amazing network?
That is a different category, not just of sports, but of television, because the Olympics on American television are in effect a 3-week mini-series. And many people who are not avid sports fans are Olympic junkies. And many Americans who wouldn't follow track and field the other 3 years plus 49 weeks of the calendar, they get into it. They get into the gymnastics. They get into the track and field. They get into obscure sports like
I'm
curling.
a cross-country skier fan all of a sudden.
Or curling or whatever it might
Yeah.
be.
I personally like speed walking.
There you go.
Oh, I got in trouble with the speed walkers once. This goes way back, 1992 in Barcelona. Race walking is not exactly a prime event in prime time,
Yeah.
but we showed a little clip of it during kind of a compilation, a digest of what had happened that day. And when they came back to me in the studio, I said, you know, it's kind of interesting to have a race to see who could walk the fastest.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a contest to see who can whisper the loudest. But
Yeah.
eventually, don't you just give up and start running?
Yeah.
You know? So it was meant as a joke, and the people in the studio laughed. But then you find out that there may not be as many race walking devotees in America as there is for other sports, but there's a few of them, and they take it seriously. And apparently, they knew where to find me.
That community was going after
Oh,
you.
they were not happy at all.
Yeah.
But then I mentioned that on Conan O'Brien, and he had a great line. So I told him, you know, these people weren't happy with me. And he goes, yeah, but it's easy to get away from them.
Oh, that's great. Okay, Olympics, deep dive.
Yeah, you know, the thing about the Olympics and the late, great Jim McKay, who defined the role for ABC as their host, when I was starting out as the Olympic host, he told me, and it was very good advice, the host has to be a good generalist. You don't have to know everything about every individual sport because there's too many of them. And at a Summer Olympics, there's 10,000 individual athletes. There's no way you can know everything about a platform diver from Peru or a cross-country skier from Denmark.
Yeah.
That's for the people at the venues. But you do have to know the broad history of the Olympics. You have to know the history and what's going on in the host nation and the host city. And you have to know the 24 or so individuals who are likely to be featured in prime time. And the sports, the half dozen or so sports that make up the bulk, not the entirety, but the bulk of prime time. And then you have to have a knack. And it's a little thing, I don't know what it is, it's like juggling. Some people can and some people can't. Right. You have to have the knack of taking a briefing very quickly, because sometimes things will happen that you didn't prepare for and didn't anticipate. Some obscure person comes out of nowhere and does something fantastic, and then you got to turn to the researchers in the 5 minutes between the end of this event and a couple of commercials, and you're going to come back on. Who is this person? Quick, give me the bio. But luckily, with advanced technology now, boom, they have it.
Yeah.
You look at it, now you got to look at it and be able to synthesize it. What here is of interest to the average person at home? Can I make a narrative out of it? Can I make some sense of it? And can I do it before we come back out of this commercial? Yeah. So that's part of it.
Is that environment like one of the more fast-paced broadcasts and having to adjust on the fly?
It can be very fast-paced, or it can also be slow.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you say, all right, let's throw it out to this venue or that, and they don't come back to you for an hour.
Right.
And then you're watching and you're trying to, have a sense of what's the overarching story that's happening here. And your job is to kind of tie it all together, not to get down into all the minutia. That's for the people at the venue.
Got it.
But also at the same token, like you've been in so many Olympics and seen so many American great moments, Olympic great moments, huge upsets. And, they become almost America's darlings and sweethearts. And, the stories kind of overcome the Olympics. Are there moments that you think of? I mean, I know we have, Janet here in the office. And, whether it is swimming or cross country or just, whatever it may be, track and field events that we've seen, that where you're like, that was a great moment in American time. That was a great moment in Olympic history. I mean, but also your voice is so iconic in the world of sport, and the ability to tell that story and the rest of the world resonating with you. I mean, that's obviously a great prideful thing, but it's so, unique. That's a great word that we always use here. But you've seen it all. But is there a moment or moments where you're like, that was a great American or Olympic moment?
Yeah. There are too many to count, but the one that I always choose involves Sydney's mom. Sydney's mom, Janet Evans, 4-time Olympic gold medalist, was one of the very first Olympic interviews I ever did. I was the late-night host in 1988 in Seoul. Bryant Gumbel was the primetime host. Then I became the primetime host for the next 11 that were on NBC. And Janet, who was then, I think, 18, she was half my age. I was 36. And I interviewed her in Seoul, Korea. That was one of my first. Now fast forward to the 1996 Atlanta Olympics, and no one knows who the final torchbearer is going to be. They kept it a closely guarded secret. And as Janet will tell you, they rehearsed it like at 3 o'clock in the morning so that nobody would know what was going on. And the people at NBC would not tell me, and they would not tell Dick Enberg, who was co-hosting the opening ceremony, who it was going to be. Usually they'll tell you so you can prepare some remarks. And Dick Ebersol, who ran NBC Sports, said to me, I want your reaction to be as spontaneous as the people in the stadium and the people watching on television. And so the next to last torchbearer was Janet Evans. And she carried the torch, climbing up the big flight of stairs, great anticipation, and then literally stepping out of the shadows came Muhammad Ali. Yeah. And even 20 years before his death, you could see the effects of the Parkinson's syndrome, hand trembling and whatnot, and so it was such a striking moment, because here was once the most nimble and graceful and beautiful of athletes, greatly compromised. No one was more entertaining, even when he was controversial. He was so entertaining and funny and outspoken, and even then his voice had been reduced to a whisper. And here he was, willing to show himself to the world in that condition. It was so striking, and there was nobility, I thought, about it. And I don't remember exactly what I said. I know that Dick Enberg said, "Oh my." Yeah.
I was doing research before you came, and I know all about this story. The torch is literally in my living room. I walk out from school, I'm like, oh, there's an Olympic torch. Like, let me go study for World War II history stuff. But I was going over some stuff, and, you did it right. Like, he comes out of the shadows, just so almost graceful. He was shaking, and you go, look who it is. And it's just like this beautiful scene, and that's exactly what you said. You go, look who it is.
I think I said, look who gets it next.
I think that's what you said. Never mind. I was a little off.
It's close enough. It's close enough.
I did pretty well.
It's okay. You had the gist of it. Yeah. The rest of it I don't remember word for word, but I do remember I said that. And then Dick Enberg's kind of signature phrase was always, oh my, when something big happened. And he said, the greatest, oh my.
Wow. Yeah, I can't even imagine, like, when you bring up Muhammad Ali and you bring up that moment, it actually kind of brought chills, like, because
I still get goosebumps every time I talk about it.
I mean, when you bring up the Olympics and you talk about these moments, and it's for, country, and it's for just everything as a part of it is just, there's a beauty in that, and there's a real in it, and it's, the struggles, and it could be what our country is going through at that time.
Absolutely.
And there's so many different, momentous parts to what the Olympics are and what they mean, and personal inspirations and what they bring back. And so to see, that happen in that point in time, and again, to hear you talk about it is just, it's a great moment.
Especially at the Olympics, you have to be a storyteller. The Super Bowl is only bigger by degree than other football games. You basically don't have to familiarize the audience with who Patrick Mahomes is.
Correct.
Leading up to it, each regular season game, each of the postseason stuff leads up to it. But as I mentioned before with the Olympics, you're getting a signal for 5 minutes.
Okay.
I'm passing it on.
Okay. my last.
Whoa! Let me just finish it. So that at the Olympics, you have to tell the stories to familiarize people with the background and what's at stake. And as the host, it was such a learning experience. The cultural panorama, traveling the world, the different venues. And to your point, in Sydney, Australia, not Sydney over here, but in Sydney, Australia, in 2000, Kathy Freeman was kind of the toast of the country, 400-meter runner. And when she won her event, which she was favored to win, but sometimes things are like, if you don't win, it's a big letdown.
Yeah.
What that meant to the country. She had also been the final torchbearer, lit the cauldron. You have to be able to transmit to an American audience that this means something similar if your athletic hero did this. This means something not just in this event. It means something to the whole country.
Yeah. It's like Jamaicans dominating in the track and field event. That is their
Bobsledding.
Yeah.
That's cool running. I almost thought about saying bobsledding.
Not quite as good in the bobsled as on the track.
Yeah.
Good movie. Good
Great
movie. I have a bunch of things here.
I didn't realize how short our time was.
Well, we have 11:30. He said. Yeah, he said it.
What time is it? Oh yeah, keep going.
I have okay. So we have Braves World Series '97, which I think was the Renteria hit.
That's right. Yeah.
But I have to ask this question because it's a little personal to me. Game 6 of 1998 that you covered. I believe that was Bulls over Jazz.
Yes. Oh yes.
Okay. Was that the Jordan over Brian Russell jump shot?
Yes.
Okay.
But not over him because Russell was stumbling away when he finally released it.
And my privy to this is my uncle coached Brian Russell
Really?
in high school.
Uh-huh.
So Brian Russell went to San Bernardino High School, then he went to Long Beach State. And so when I saw that, I said, I got to ask him because was it a push or was it not a push?
I think if that's a play in the second quarter of a regular season game, nobody thinks anything of it. He did touch Russell's backside, but as I said on the Last Dance documentary, that was more like a maitre d' showing someone to their table than it was a really aggressive push. The reason why Russell was stumbling was that Michael had pulled up and faked him out of his sneakers.
Yeah.
So he starts stumbling away, and Michael said, all right, let me escort you out of here. And now I got a clean look at it. And he makes the shot.
Is that the series I watched The Last Dance and remember the bad pizza being delivered to the
That's
hotel?
97.
Oh, I'm
that's
off by
that's
a year.
the
All
year
right.
the year before.
Okay.
Whatever
All right.
it was, whether it was bad pizza or the flu,
Yeah.
Michael was sick as a dog.
Yeah.
And that was a good kind of personification of his athletic will.
Yeah.
You know, there are a lot of great competitors. I think even the players who disliked Michael would tell you, no one would outcompete him.
Yeah.
No one had as a greater will than he had. And a lot of people would have bowed out of that game. But he knew what was at stake, not just for his team, but he was always aware of his own legacy.
Yeah.
You know, so if I've got to carry this team to a championship, that's one more championship for me.
Yeah. If there's one athlete.
I was going to, is he the greatest you've ever covered?
You know, it's so hard to say.
No, you're good.
I think in basketball, you can't compare centers to forwards and guards. How do you compare Michael Jordan to Wilt Chamberlain or Bill Russell or Shaquille O'Neal or Hakeem Olajuwon or a healthy Bill Walton? I don't know how you do that. But I can't put anybody ahead of Michael Jordan. And in terms of his impact is the greatest.
Yeah.
You can compare LeBron statistically to Michael, and it's close. You can make an argument for LeBron. You can't make any argument that his impact on the game was as great as Michael Jordan. Let's let Parker and Sydney jump back in here.
Yeah.
Well, I'm an amateur commentator right now.
An amateur commentator.
Yeah, I do water polo games on the weekends.
Water polo's hard sport to do.
Yes, and so do you have any tips to improve my commentating?
Well, I'd have to hear a tape to see where you are. Water polo is I've never done it, but I've listened and watched during the Olympics when we've carried it. You got the numbers on the caps, but that's about it. And it's hard in that kind of scrum of stuff. It's hard to identify everybody. My thought would be that if you try to keep up with every pass, it's just going to be word on top of word, sentence on top of sentence. You probably should just kind of try and locate where the ball generally is, who's attacking and which side is attacking, which side is defending. And then when the shot is released, that's when you have to be on top of who took the shot on goal, who saved it. But if you tried to follow every bounce of the ball on the water or every stroke that each player took, it would just be a jumble, I think. But this would not be my strongest area of expertise, so that's about all I got.
Thank you.
Sydney,
Oh, guys, you're putting me on the spot here.
think of something.
I'm going to pass over back to the Brett squared, and I will think of something.
Okay, good.
I want to bring up something that we talked about prior to starting the show. Your animation work. the voice of Bob Cutlass.
Yeah.
I'm stealing that question. That was my question.
You want to go for it? You can take it.
You said it perfectly.
Okay. How are you approached? Mm-hmm. Do you enjoy doing voiceover work where, I think like broadcasting, people can tell your voice. Obviously, the face isn't prevalent as much. Do you get a similar feeling when you do voiceover work for Cars 1, 2, and
I didn't do 2. I was
1 and 3.
1 and 3.
1 and 3.
Which is why 2 isn't nearly as good.
No, when I have kids, we'll skip 2.
Yeah, but I found out that demographic, like ages 3 to 6, if they like something, they like it over and over again. So many parents have told me, my little boy or my little girl watches this every night.
Yeah.
So that's kind of a kick. It's more or less your own voice.
Yeah.
But I think I changed it a little bit to fit what Bob Cutlass might sound like as opposed to me. And I get every month, you look at the mail and people send you cards to sign or pictures to sign, and I'll get a lot of pictures of Bob Cutlass.
No way.
Yeah, and they want me to sign it, and I sign it Bob, parentheses, Cutlass, close parentheses, Costas.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so I probably over the course of a year probably get 100 of them.
That's so cool.
How they approach me, the people from Pixar who I'd never met just called and said, would you do this?
Yeah.
Pixar has a great reputation. I said, sure. And so many great people worked on Cars.
Yeah.
Paul Newman.
Owen Willson.
George Carlin.
Yeah.
Sort of, be in a film with them. I have a very interesting filmography, which also includes basketball. Yeah. It's varied. I have tremendous range as an actor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%.
So I have to ask, and I'm going to get a little bit more deep into you a little bit. It's more of a sense of accomplishments in the events that you've seen in the world, and the athletes you've seen, and the career that you've had, and the longevity. Do you ever step back and realize the career and the beauty of those moments that have been set in front of you? Whether it's the '96 Olympics or whether it's seeing Kirby Puckett's a personal favorite of mine.
Me too.
St. Louis, Syracuse, Jim Boeheim, World Series, NBA, Super Bowls, everything that you've been a part of. I mean, and it's not to say that you don't do these things, but do you have that opportunity you get the beauty of all that what you've seen? And because I have this, take it for what it's worth, and trying to educate the youth of America, and going back to our earlier conversation about the moments in time of whether it's a parent spending time with their child or whether they're doing something great academically or athletically, it's finding the beauty in those moments. And rather than being locked into a phone or social media, yes, you want to historicalize that in essence. Yeah. But there's, when you see a picture of Michael Jordan in 1998 or 97 versus you see a shot in LeBron where everybody's posting their phone up now. The difference of being able to really have a message to the youth of America of appreciating the moments in time that they have because it goes so fast.
Yeah, everybody is partial to the music they listened to when they were younger and experiences when they were younger and their sense of the world was being shaped. But I think there's some validity in this. I was lucky to land in a prime chunk of time where the technology was such, it wasn't black and white, it was a vivid color picture. You could edit and you could put packages together, but there was still a little bit of distance. You still had to be there at 8 o'clock Eastern time. This is when it comes on, and everything wasn't chronicled and analyzed down to the nth degree. You went to the newspaper to look at the box score of the Dodger game if you weren't up that late. And I think that added an element of romance, an element of you're familiar with it, yes, but you're not so immersed in it that every last particular is on top of you. The broader picture of it, what it felt like, was as important as the particulars of it. And the great broadcasters and the great writers were able to capture that and highlight that.
Thank you. I appreciate that. That was really well said.
I try.
No, really well. I mean, it's just, I mean, the world that you've seen is just, there's so much great in it.
Yeah.
And it's just, there's so much appreciation. I'm 44. Bret's a little bit on my younger side.
Well,
You know,
32.
we've got high school students, you know, and the beauty of that and the appreciation of what you've seen is just so great because you're such an iconic, you know, person to be in this position to be able to send a message to, you know, the things that you've seen and the beauty of the sports we play and the beauty of the things we do, I think is so important. So I'll defer back to you guys.
Sydney.
I think it's time for trivia.
Okay.
Go.
All right. We're gonna finish up with trivia.
Okay.
It's very simple. It's easy trivia. Favorite.
Okay.
I don't even know. I wouldn't categorize it as trivia. It's more just rapid fire questions.
Yeah, rapid fire.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Trivia.
Okay.
He would probably if I could pick one person to go to sports trivia, it would be you, because I think any question that gets thrown out there, I think you would have a good understanding of it. And
I don't know if I'd win, but it'd be competitive.
yeah,
Let's
you
put it
would
that
be.
way.
You would be.
Favorite movie of all time.
You know, this is another one where when I'm asked about that, I mean, I'm pretty much into movies, and so you could start naming The Godfather and all those classics, but I always fall back, because it's easier, on the movies that I first loved when I was a kid. And growing up in New York, there used to be a program called The $1 Million Movie, which came on Channel 9 in New York every night at 7 o'clock, Monday through Friday. And they played the same movie all week, and then back-to-back on Saturday and Sunday. So if you wanted to, you could watch all or part of the same movie 9 times in a week. And so the first movie I ever did that with, I was 7 years old, was King Kong. And the original King Kong in black and white is better than any of the remakes and iterations of it since. And it's actually a technical marvel made in 1933.
Wow.
So I'm going with that.
Yeah. Not a huge fan of the more recent King Kongs. I believe Jack Black was in one of them,
Yeah.
and I agree with you. I agree that the original will always be better. I've seen it.
I did like the ride at Universal, so especially when I took my son, so he enjoyed it.
Nice.
Favorite band of all time.
You know, it's such a trite answer. You're talking about a band. Okay?
Or a solo artist.
You know, even there, the more you know about it, the harder it is. You know, how do you separate? You say Bob Dylan is better than Ray Charles. Is Paul Simon better than Carole King? Or I'm just plucking names out of nowhere.
Of course.
Yeah.
Or Joni Mitchell or whomever. And again, it's the era you grew up in. So most of the stuff that I'm going to pick either is during my youth or it predates my youth. There's an argument to be made that the Rolling Stones were a better band than the Beatles. They certainly played a zillion times more concerts than the Beatles, because the Beatles were only together for a short period of time.
Yeah.
But those were, in terms of the output, when you think about what the Beatles did in less than a decade and how many great songs they came up with, that's a pretty good choice. When you look back at the history of rock and roll, and by the way, anything that happened, more than a decade ago is lost on Parker and Sydney.
You guys can test me. I will kill this. I might challenge you on this one.
Oh, well, then jump right in. But what in the 1950s, obviously Elvis was great. But if you ever saw a live performance, as I did, not in the 50s, but subsequently, by Chuck Berry or by Little Richard, forget about it. Forget about it.
Did you watch the We Are the World documentary?
I
on
didn't watch the
Netflix?
documentary.
Okay. It was pretty interesting to see all those people in one room and the behind the scenes of that.
Yeah.
They were filming till like 8 in the morning overnight. It was crazy.
I guess the most fascinating part was how they pulled all these diverse talents.
Yeah.
Some of them more cooperative than others. Some of
Yes.
them on the diva side.
Yeah.
How they pulled them all together. But I think we can say this: it was a great cause.
Yeah.
It was not a great song.
I,
Every single person there had thrown stuff away as they were composing songs that was better than that song.
yeah.
We are the world. We are the show. Okay, good. How about if I give you $1,000, will you just stop? I'll contribute. Just stop singing it.
Yeah, I can't remember who it was, but somebody said, "Yeah, my boyfriend told me not to come because they thought it wouldn't be a hit." Do you remember who that was?
No.
Okay, all right.
Cyndi Lauper.
Yeah.
I was gonna say.
Cyndi Lauper.
Yeah, but she still went.
I
so.
interviewed her once.
Yeah.
You're up. What's the question? Let her jump in. She wants to play this game.
Favorite. If it's not Mantle, who was our favorite player growing up? Favorite.
Like sports player?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, guys, I'm an Angels fan, so I love
You
the
have our
Angels.
sympathies.
Yeah, I know. I will stand strong for the Angels for as long as I live.
Trout or
although
Ohtani?
I honestly, it's so basic. It's like the most basic answer. I was really into, what's his name? Albert Pujols.
Yeah.
Guys, I thought
Bad-
he was so
bad
cool when I
contract.
was like a 10-year-old. I thought he was amazing.
He was amazing, but the Angels got the lesser half of his career. The Cardinals got the good stuff.
Yeah.
And then another very basic answer is Kobe.
Okay.
Kobe.
Gonna put that out there.
I
Yeah.
interviewed Kobe when he was right out of high school.
Lower Merion.
Rookie year. Lower Merion High School in Philadelphia. Rookie year with the Lakers. And you could just tell he was different than any other 18-year-old coming into the league. You know, his father had played in the league. He grew up in Italy, or at least part of the time in Italy. He spoke multiple languages. He was just a different cat.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't know he was a Charlotte Hornet.
Briefly.
Yes.
One of Jerry West's greatest moves.
Greatest move.
Yeah.
Might be the greatest move of all time.
Yeah.
I'm an Angel fan as well. I grew up with the World Series team, though, so I'm a big Tim Salmon, Darren Erstad, David Eckstein, Brad Fulmer.
Yeah.
Gosh, who was the
John Lackey.
Brendan Donnelly,
Francisco
who would come in
Rodriguez.
and pump like in the middle of his delivery with the
Troy
glasses.
Percival.
Troy Percival, Riverside guy.
Mike Sosha, manager.
Sosha. I think my grandpa managed Sosha.
Let me tell you a story you'll appreciate. David Eckstein,
Yeah.
like my size, like 5'6", right? My daughter, who kept score of every baseball game starting when she was 7 years old.
That's awesome.
Which is good parenting, okay? She always picked, grew up in St. Louis, she always picked like the littlest guy would be her favorite guy. Fernando Vina was her favorite guy for a while. Then David Eckstein became her favorite player. And he was actually the MVP of the 2006 World Series when the Cardinals beat the Tigers. Okay. So I'm talking to him, and my daughter, you're her favorite player. And a really nice guy would say, if they're a really nice guy, oh, here, let me sign something for her. He says, I'd like to meet her. So on her 17th birthday, I take her out to a restaurant in St. Louis, and unannounced, Eckstein shows up with his wife and with birthday presents, with
awesome.
wrapped birthday presents. How many baseball players would do that?
Not a lot.
Just
And-
amazing.
Amazing. And I don't think a lot of, I'd give him 5'9", 5'8", led the league in Grand Slams one year, I believe, too.
Eckstein?
Yes.
He's 5'6".
5'6".
I know.
5'6".
I keep track of these things.
I'm pretty sure he had 1 year where he hit 4 or 5 Grand Slams and led the league in Grand Slams.
What are the odds of that?
Crazy, right?
Who led the league in Grand Slams last year?
Royce Lewis,
Which is a product of
JSerra
JSerra
Catholic
Catholic High
School.
School.
Yes, Minnesota Twins.
Yeah.
First pick
Yes.
overall. Rick Eckstein just became the Team USA manager for 18U national team, which is David's brother.
Wow.
Yesterday.
Okay.
All right, so before we wrap up here, one more from Parker and one more from Sydney. Now, you've had plenty of time to think about this because you knew we were going to come back to you, so
He's very good at it.
you're on the clock.
Since it's gonna be March next month, who would you say was gonna win March Madness?
You know, I don't follow it as closely as I once did. Purdue last year was an early out, relatively early out in the tournament. But when you look at what they've got, and
Edie's
the big
tough.
kid Edie in the middle,
he's tough.
that's tough to contend with, and it looks to me like they're well coached.
Yeah. Painter, right? Matt Painter?
Yeah.
I believe that's his name.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
I feel like they're getting to the point where they're just due. They almost are starting to feel like Gonzaga. Like they've been a 1 seed the last few years, and they just haven't been able to finish it.
How about Gonzaga, literally undefeated 1 year until the championship game?
Yeah. So hopefully they can pull it off. I always root now that the pack is dismantling. Like Arizona's a top 10 team. Like go win it. Stay with
I
the
don't
West
know,
Coast.
I'm not an Arizona. Ever since Lute Olson left, I haven't been an Arizona fan.
Yeah.
No offense. All right, Sydney, you got to close it up.
Okay, I will close it up swinging back to the Olympics because I'm bringing this full circle, and My brother's the baseball player. I'm the
swimmer.
swimmer. So we're just going to stay over here in the swimming world of things. Back to the Olympics. I'm very simple. What was your favorite Olympics to host? Did you feel like you learned more as you hosted more, or was it like your first one that was just like the experience for you?
This is a very good question. It's hard to pick. So many of them were wonderful. But 1992 in Barcelona was my first as the primetime host. So the responsibility there is greater, and I probably over-prepared. I just didn't want to get caught without knowing something. And eventually I learned that what you don't need to know is as important as what you do need to know. Don't waste your time on stuff that's almost impossible or highly unlikely to come up. But Barcelona is such a beautiful kind of old world European city with so much history, right on the Mediterranean, and a lot of interesting architecture and whatnot. There were a lot of stories to tell. And then there was the thrill. I was much younger, and the thrill of this assignment that I never dreamed of having, and it went well. So I remember that fondly, but almost all of them have something. 2004 in Athens, my father's side of the family is Greek. It meant a lot to some of my cousins and aunts and uncles that I was broadcasting not just any Olympics, but from the birthplace of the Olympic Games and the Parthenon and the Acropolis and all of that. Every Olympics I could cite something, but those two jump out at me.
Yeah.
And, of course, 88 when Janet won her first gold medal.
Naturally.
El Dorado Hawk.
Yeah.
El Dorado Hawk.
Was the Dream Team 92?
92, yeah.
That Barcelona?
Oh, yeah, that's another thing.
I was going to say.
The dream team, that was huge. That was when the NBA began to go global.
Yeah.
Well, we want to thank you for being on the show. Again, this has been a great experience for us as educators, for our student athletes to be a part of this. We want to thank everybody. That's but Janet, who's here, for having you on the show. We appreciate you being on for 45 minutes.
Yeah.
How long is the podcast usually?
He just took a new job at a new school at St. Anne's. So it used to be called the Bret and Bret Show. So now it's the Bret and I'm Figuring It Out Show.
Yeah.
So I've got the spring coaches to interview coming up here in the next couple weeks.
We would range like an hour to an hour 15.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, so this comes up short of that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
I thought it was like doubling the usual
No.
time.
We're an hour.
We like to talk.
Oh, well, I think you've gotten all you can get. You squeezed all the juice out of this.
Yeah. And I will say this as we depart. My grandpa wanted to say hi, Buck Rogers. I was talking to him yesterday, so he wanted to say hello.
Long time since our paths crossed, but
Yeah.
please give him my best.
I will.
Yeah, it's the baseball community and the Olympic community and sports community. It's so small.
So small. Yeah.
So thank you for being on the show. We really appreciate it. It's been a great experience. Thank you for being on the show.
Thank you, Bret Squared. Thank you, Parker. Thank you, Sydney.
That's our show for today, and we want to thank everybody associated for bringing Bob Costas, the legendary Bob Costas, on our podcast today. Thanks.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, you guys could just do